I'm Alex, and these are my top 10 reads of 2022 with a few honourable mentions. Starting with the honourable mentions, we have a couple of fiction books. First is Carry On Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. This is a very funny book, but it's just not top 10. If you want a hilarious take on aristocratic British stereotypes with some of the best writing that you will read, then this is the book for you. And the two characters that P.G. Wodehouse creates, Worcester and his butler Jeeves, are incredible with some really memorable lines. Definitely worth a read if that sounds good to you. Next is Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. In my opinion, this is Shakespeare's best work and his most interesting. If you want a play with legendary writing and probably one of the best scenes in all of Shakespeare, which is Mark Antony's funeral scene, then this is a great book. I know that Shakespeare and plays aren't for everyone, but if you're interested, maybe you're interested in the historical period as well, then this is a great read. My other honourable mentions are 3 non-fiction books, as I wanted to keep the top 10 purely fiction. The first 2 are both by Nietzsche, and they are on the genealogy of moles and the will to power. In my opinion, this is Nietzsche at his best, and he's one of my favourite philosophers. Hard-hitting prose, great ideas, and he does not hold back. It's a great read. On the genealogy of moles, I think is the best, and if anyone wants to start anywhere with Nietzsche, On the Genealogy of Moles is the book for you. It's concise, to the point, and much more focused than Nietzsche's other works. Last honourable mention, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Shirer. This is the definitive history on the Nazi Party, their side of the Second World War, and Hitler. If you're at all interested in that part of history, Second World War, authoritarianism in general, then I would highly recommend this book. It's long, about 1300 pages, but it is incredibly well researched, incredibly well written, and I would highly recommend it. Now on to the top 10, in no particular order, because I just can't. There's no way that I could try and pick between these top 10. I tried to order it, but no way. First up is William Golding's The Lord of the Flies. It is an examination into how societies fall and how they can descend into barbarism. It's got some truly shocking passages, and it really makes you think about the depths of the human experience and the human condition. It's a great read, and it's also not too long. So if you're looking for a short book, then this is one that I would pick. Next is a slightly longer book, and that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. It's a book that meditates on really what it means to have a great life, and how do we deal with our desires? How do we deal with our feelings of love and understand them better? And are they just short-term, or are they going to be longer lasting and real emotions, not just fleeting ones? A lot of people are daunted by Anna Karenina and War and Peace, and I'll admit I was too before I read them, but Leo Tolstoy's writing style is so accessible. It's so good. His prose are really easy to read. The most complex thing is the name of the characters, but aside from that, once you get into the story, it's very accessible, and the chapters are really short, 3-4 pages. So if you want to pick it up for a few minutes, read a chapter or 2, and then put it down and come back to it later, you totally can, without worrying that you're just going to drop it in the middle of a chapter, forget about it, and not know when you come back. I would urge everyone, if they're at all interested, to give it a try. It's not going to be as bad as you think. Take a long time, maybe, but it's not going to be a difficult read. Next, we have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. What a great book, and with a really unique take on society. It's about what does it mean to be an outsider, someone who's downtrodden, not what society would deem acceptable or normal. And how do you come to terms with that? How do you come to live with yourself in that position? And ultimately, learn how to laugh at yourself, at society, at the situation, and through that, find a way to accept who you are and be comfortable with that. It's a beautiful and really touching story. Next up is The Fratricides by Nikos Kazantzakis. He was also the author who wrote Zorb the Greek, but this is his best work. This is way better, in my opinion, at least. It's set during the Greek Civil War, and as you might expect there, it's about conflict, but more specifically about getting caught in between that conflict, and how do you resolve that? How do you deal with being in that position, especially when there's family involved? It's a great story. Love the main character, Father Yanuos, and I'm going to say now, it's got the best last line of any book that I've ever read. It was so impactful and really just left me with my mind racing. Next up is Journey Under the Midnight Sun by Kaigo Higashino. It's a crime thriller that is the definition of a page-turner. I could not put it down. The chapters are long, but that did not matter. You just have to keep reading. It can be a little confusing around the second chapter, the start of the second chapter, but once you get to grips with it, it is well worth it. Great story, Ultimately, it's a story about manipulation and how malicious actors can prey on the naive and the innocent and shape the world to their ends. And look, if you haven't discovered Japanese literature by now, you really need to. There are some great books within it. Next up is another Japanese book, and that is The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. Perhaps my favourite piece of Japanese literature. It's a really wholesome and heartwarming story about the little things that we do for each other and the relationships that we have with other people, how we can impact each other's lives and, you know, maybe make them a bit better. You come away thinking about what you can do for those around you and how you can make their lives better. And it's a book for that reason that I love and that I love to reread as well. Another book that I reread a lot is The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. In my opinion, this is Hemingway's best work and probably the reason why he won the Nobel Prize. It's a story about overcoming obstacles and challenges that life will inevitably throw at us and how to deal with that, how to not give up and how to keep going even in the bleakest of scenarios. Even if you know that you're going to come away with nothing, don't give up, just keep going, because it's about the principles that we hold and the character that we're building for our entire lives, not just for that one scenario, not just for that one obstacle. Next is Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, another book that I'm constantly rereading, partly to practice my French, but partly because I just love the story. It's a story about how to value the little things in life and find importance within them, basically about finding your inner child and having that happiness and gratitude within everything. If you need a break from life, then this is essential reading. Next up is The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's between this and Crime and Punishment for the book that I relate to the most in regards to the main characters. But I don't know, it depends on the day. Sometimes I'm leaning more towards Prince Mishkin and sometimes I'm leaning towards Raskolnikov. But either way, both of them great stories, both of them great books. The Prince is a beautiful character whom Dostoevsky thrusts into a cruel and transactional world that is judgmental of everybody. The Prince's innocence and his faith are pitted against the corrupting nature of those around him. And we'll have to see who will triumph, who's going to come out on top. Will the Prince be corrupted, or will beauty perhaps save the world? Gonna have to read and find out. It's beautifully written and really as complex as you want it to be. Dostoevsky is a master, and it's a great novel by a great author. Finally, we have The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. To be honest, I was only reading this for a bit of nostalgia, but the depth of the novel and the ideas within it caught me totally off guard. At its heart, it's about friendship and the lengths that we will go to help our friends. But it goes much deeper than that, looking at the tension between tradition and progress, thinking about satisfaction with our own lives and what we need to be happy. Can we just live in one place for our whole lives, or do we need to go out and see the world and experience more? And is there a right way to live and go about this? It's a surprisingly great book, and if you haven't read it for a while, if you haven't read it at all, then I'd consider it. It might surprise you too. So those are my top books of 2022. Let me know what your favourite books were that you read last year. If there are any on the list that you read, let me know your thoughts on them. I'd be really interested to hear them. And aside from that, I'll see you in the next one.